NFC Championship Game edition of Awesome, Awful, and Awkward. Domonique, what did you see that was awesome?
Oh, it was Cook, James Cook, scoring this, converting right here when I thought it was impossible on 4th and goal. I thought this play was dead at the snap. He takes a couple hits. It's like 4 guys get a hand on him, and he gets one hand on the ground and reaches across the strength, athleticism, and just believing that it's possible. Like, I might have curled up out there on the flat. That was an incredible play, and Josh Allen with a quick pitch made it possible.
I wouldn't have given him the ball late in the game either.
Oh, don't start, Jeff. You're starting, Jeff.
Graziano, what was something awful that you saw this game?
Patrick Mahomes doesn't show up on awful very much, but this is an awesome play where he scores a touchdown, and that's fantastic so far. This here, there aren't many things I think I could do better than Patrick Mahomes, but that is one of them.
He actually posted an apology for this,
which is good for him.
It just sucks all the energy out of the moment. You see his face, he just goes like,
Jeff, awkward. What was awkward?
Oh, we start from awesome, and then that we don't give him the ball at the end of the game. Even the broadcast, it was going on. We're like, man, James Cook is tearing this thing up. Let's not give him the ball in the last minute or two of the game. Let's just try to win it without him. Take our second best player on offense and not give him any touches. That's a good call. That made it a little awkward for me.
Painful finish to watch. Painful is the right word. Dan Orlovsky summed it up yesterday here on Get Up, sort of the overview of Josh Allen and the Bills franchise.
I think it's the most haunted organization. It might be the most haunted player in the history of the NFL. I mean, 4 straight Super Bowl losses 30-plus years ago. And now 4 straight losses to Patrick Mahomes when your quarterback plays just as good. I love Josh. I love Josh. I love Josh. No one, I don't think, in the media champions Josh more than me. He got the ball back, down 3, with a chance to go get it done.
All right, Graziano, you were with them. You've covered the Bills, I want to say 3 weeks in a row or something like that. And you were, what did you observe? I think all of us on the outside are like, I don't even know how you get up in the morning if you're the Bills the next day and they're fans. We have some of them in our studio. Poor Tyler. What did you observe?
Yeah, I mean,
after the game,
they were devastated, and that's a word a lot of them use. I mean, they felt like they were in a position to win the game. They felt like this was a year that they were, they felt good enough about themselves. They were going to finally take out this team. And once again, it happened to them by the same exact team. You start to, what you don't want to let creep in is, oh, we'll never get this done. We'll never beat them. But obviously, there's a feeling in there of like, we've tried everything, and we still can't beat them. It was obviously a very deflated group. Sean McDermott said some things about, look, we're a good team, we're a good organization, we're going into next year with some momentum. All that's true, because this was supposed to be the rebuild year, right? In Buffalo, they weren't supposed to get as far as they did. So they have pride in that, but in the moment, I mean, you just got to feel terrible for the fans. This was something they felt they were going to get.
Yeah, I guess I just don't feel that way. They had the opportunity to win, and they didn't get it done. They didn't execute,
they
right?
Played a great game.
Yeah, the Chiefs gave them every opportunity to close this one out. Whatever the season was, quote, supposed to look like, that's real air quotes, supposed to look like when the season started, the bottom line is they had every opportunity to win. They did have the ball with Josh Allen down 3. They did have a chance on defense to close this thing out and not give them another opportunity. But instead of making the plays, they didn't execute when it came to crunch time. And whether that was the 3rd down throw when they have a perfect play on and you got a defensive end chasing down a receiver to stop them, and then the 4th and 5 when they get blitzed, and how they had no idea it was going to be a blitz is just shocking to me. Like all of those things boil down to situational football. And Greeny, you ask us all the time, define what that is. You just saw it play out. You saw it on 3rd and 9, them not executing to get off the field.
That's the play.
To P-Ryan, right? You're running man coverage over the top. And all the things they did, they had the opportunity. They didn't make the play. So when you go in deflated, it's not because of what the Chiefs did. It's because of what you didn't accomplish. That's the part that really stings.
At some point, I thought Jeff was going to go into it there, but Jeff talking about protections. He almost lost his mind talking about protection. So at some point, I'm sure Jeff is going to explain that to us, how they missed that opportunity. But when you're getting to the big picture, I think that's part of this is a little bit frustrating, because while it all makes sense about how they have Josh and you have this long runway and this was a rebuilding year, it all makes sense, but it's impossible to feel that way when you're on the team.
Amen.
And when you play in a game like that, where there were opportunities, it's really hard to then step back and be like, but we're all right. You're going to be thinking about what we should have done, what I could have done. And I know Kincaid, I'm sure, is thinking about that catch he could have made, but that's one of multiple plays that didn't go in their favor in that game, and I'm sure they won them back, and it doesn't matter that they are in good shape going forward right now.
I think it is important to note, though, a lot did go in their favor in that game. Yeah. They fumbled the ball 4 times and recovered all 4.
Right.
Josh Allen's first 2 passes of the game absolutely should have been intercepted. This was not a team that came out looking like it did the week before against the Ravens or the week before that against the Broncos. They got the ball first, and they had the opportunity to do something, and they looked jittery. This was not the same Buffalo team in terms of when it got on the field as we had seen throughout the year and in recent weeks. And I think, you're playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead in the AFC Championship. The margins are tiny. If you don't make the most of your first couple of drives, you could end up paying for that later, and I think they did.
And I love what Nick just said about long term. Everybody gets better. You have to go beat Baltimore again, right? You got to go beat the Chiefs. There's a lot to do to get back to this point. Dan Campbell said it best when they lost to the 49ers in the championship. You don't know what's promised next year. I don't care how good the organization is. I played for one of the best. And I'm just telling you, I got to 2 Super Bowls in 13 years. It's a lot more difficult. Everybody else gets better. There could be, the Steelers could pick, just wild things can happen in the NFL, and you are not assured anything.
They also keep running into that guy, Patrick Mahomes, who, as they continue to say,
going nowhere.
They keep running into Michael Jordan. By the way, every day this week, we're going to take it back. So let's do Take It Back Tuesday. This day in Super Bowl history, January 28th, 1990 was Super Bowl 24. The Denver Broncos won the opening coin toss and should have elected to go home. They lost to the 49ers 55-10, the most lopsided Super Bowl in NFL history. Joe Montana was named the MVP after throwing 5 touchdowns, 3 of them to Jerry Rice. That was on this day in 1990. I deftly maneuver over here for the Green List, which is brought to you today by the U.S. Army. And today's Green List, with the extraordinary run, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, that Saquon Barkley is having. These are the top 5 free agent signings in the NFL that paid off. We'll do them in chronological order. There's no way to compare one to the other. We start with what really was the first one. People not old enough to remember will forget that, or will never have known. Free agency didn't exist in the NFL, and then God told Reggie White to go to Green Bay. That's how he explained it, and it changed everything. He was the best defensive player in the NFL with the Eagles. He brought Green Bay to the championship. They won their first Super Bowl with him, the first that franchise had won since the Lombardi era. Next comes Deion Sanders. In consecutive years, so the Niners lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs in 92 and 93. They signed Deion in 94. He's the defensive player of the year, and they win the Super Bowl. The next year, he signs in Dallas, and the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. That Deion was pretty good. Back-to-back years, he signs as free agents, and where he went, championships followed. Next, chronologically, is Peyton Manning going to Denver. He won at least 12 games all 4 of his years there. He was terrific immediately. He was the MVP of the league in his second year there, and they made the Super Bowl. And then, of course, in his final game, they won Super Bowl 50. So Manning's era in Denver, a ridiculous success over the course of 4 years. Then we fast forward to 2020 and Tom Brady. I mean, what can you say? He went to Tampa Bay. They had missed the playoffs 12 consecutive years. Then he shows up and they win the Super Bowl immediately during a pandemic. Tom Brady wound up having several good years in Tampa, but obviously the immediate impact that he made is something perhaps unlike anything we've ever seen in the NFL until now. Saquon Barkley then joins this list, signing as a free agent with the Eagles, ran for over 2,000 yards. He's a finalist for MVP. He's a finalist for Offensive Player of the Year. And once if he has a bad day by his standards in the Super Bowl, he will wind up having rushed for more yards this year, including the playoffs, than any player in any season in NFL history. So he certainly belongs on this list. Dan Graziano, how would you describe the impact that the signing of Saquon Barkley has had on the Eagles?
Put me in a bad position. Obviously, it's had a great impact. He's a great player. He's having a great season. They're in the freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah!
I've been hearing from Jeff Saturday all year, you don't like Saquon Barkley. I do like Saquon Barkley. Jeff Saturday's lying to people. What I don't like is oversimplification. And honestly, like, the defense is the main reason the Eagles have been better this year. Like the Eagles were 7th in scoring offense last year. They were 7th in scoring offense this year. Last year, they were 30th in scoring defense. This year, they're 2nd. Like, come on. Like Saquon is a part of this. There's no question about it, and a significant one. But I just, like, to me, it's like what they did bringing in Vic Fangio, what they did in the draft and defense, what they did signing, Zach Vaughn and making him into a defensive player of the year. Look at this. They're scoring maybe 1.5 points more on offense this year. The offense was great, still is great. Saquon gives them an explosive element, can score from 60 yards away anytime he wants. This is why the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, right here. They're allowing a touchdown less per game.
I love you.
Come on.
I love you. That's good. I mean, you're right.
What I want to know is why you come to me first. You should have let them say great things about Saquon. I could have said, he's great, but look at this too.
No, I like this. We start with the defense. Let's do a deep dive on Quinyon Mitchell and how he shut him down and then did the scary Terry.
We got to fill 2 weeks.
Here's the thing. So let's what you're saying is not wrong.
I know.
The turnaround of the Eagles defense has been an enormous part of the story.
Sure.
What I think is also true is that Saquon Barkley, you could make an argument and defend it, as having the greatest season any running back has ever had. I also think his attitude, his leadership, his selflessness, all of the things that he brings has helped a team a lot that desperately needed this. This was a team that played way worse than they were at the end of last season because something was wrong. Someday someone will write a book that will detail all the things that actually happened that the world didn't know about in the second half of last season. I don't know what it was. I don't know that anyone outside necessarily does. But I believe this to be true. Saquon Barkley, not just how great a player he is, not just the fact that they can hit home runs on running plays rather than passing plays, which is the single most valuable thing you can do in the NFL, and I don't think anyone realized you could do it.
We're teaching him.
I also think his leadership and selflessness and personality made a big difference for that team. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it helps when you're winning. I think when the culture of that organization, I think, is a stable one. Last year, you're right, it was a little rocky. Bringing Saquon in, I think, did give them something to galvanize around. In Saquon having the season that he has, it really helps whenever you're like leading a group to be able to focus on any one thing. And Saquon was that thing this year.
Right.
Whether he was the reason why the defense was great, the defense was part of the reason why they could run the ball as often as they did, because no team can get away from him. That's what happens, is sometimes the defense is not good enough and the team that you're playing against gets away from you, then you can't run the ball anymore. So Saquon's been great. The one thing I did learn from this game, though, is center's kind of overrated. Kind of an overrated position. Kind of over Jason Kelce, and then we're rotating
Two heroic efforts
Anybody
that you're going to
can
minimize.
do it. They don't even need to be healthy.
I'm not minimizing it. I'm just saying they breaking damn records out there, and they just rolling centers out there. They got 2 good legs between their centers.
Who do we got for center? Oh, it doesn't matter. Just throw anybody out.
Oh, it's like Jason Kelce. We can't do this without Jason Kelce? Nah.
Saquon plays center.
So Kelsey's overrated is what y'all are saying. And 2, you said it.
No, I'm saying he's properly rated. Centers are men. Centers are men.
Okay, so we've got all of that. Then we've got Jalen Hurts. So after the game on Sunday, he was asked, he had sort of an odd comment about his head coach. Let's try and decipher this. Yeah. Let's do what we do best. Let's overanalyze what Jalen Hurts said about his quarterback Sunday.
It's for Coach post-game on stage, and what's it like playing for Coach Sirianni?
Well, he's done a great job. He's done a great job. I guess he let me on my straitjacket a little bit today.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm not going first here.
You're going to the, I'm sorry, Jalen, you're going to the Super Bowl. You just had the greatest day ever. By the way, my favorite stat, maybe in the history of football, and he was a big part of it, the Eagles had 7 rushing touchdowns on Sunday. 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
The Dallas Cowboys had 6 rushing touchdowns this season.
Oh gosh.
Philadelphia ran for more touchdowns on Sunday than the Cowboys did all year long. And he had touchdowns. And so, what was that? I mean, what was that we just heard?
Honestly, I feel like he's more taking a shot at us than he is at his coach.
Yeah.
It's like
For what?
The perception is that we're saying that he's in a straitjacket.
For accurately pointing out that they've had 65 net passing yards the week before?
Right, and so I think that's what he's saying. He listened to a week of us saying that, or several weeks, a whole season of us saying that, and he's like, the same time when he had that one good game, and he was like, "Is this what you guys wanted?" Like he's talking to us. I don't think this is a shot at Sirianni putting him in the straitjacket, but he's talking to the media, he's talking to the fans who say that he's the weakest link on this team, and he's saying, "I can do it if I got to. Look, I just did it. I don't need to play in a straitjacket."
He's basically saying, "Go play man, see what I'm gonna give you." That's what he basically said. Go test me, is what he basically said. He said, "Mike Greenberg, you've been disrespecting me all season. I got something for you," and that's what he came out with. And here's the reality of it. When Josh Allen threw for 127 yards and they beat Baltimore, nobody talked about that, right? That he only needed 65 yards to win whatever playoff game. That's what I keep trying to tell you. It doesn't matter. The greatest part about Jalen is winning. That's what makes you elite. His elite quality is he wins. He's been in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Winning matters. In whichever way you have to win, you think he doesn't want to go throw for 200 yards every week? Absolutely he would. But that's not the way this team wins. It does benefit their defense. They can run the ball that way. It does benefit their running game, but their defense is this good. It's called collective, a team game for a reason, and Jalen Hurts is just throwing a little shade your way. Not my way, because I've been championing all season.
The shade that he hasn't thrown, though, I think the fair criticism of Jalen Hurts is if they are down. The problem is they don't never go down by that much. It's like if you go down a few touchdowns early in the game, all of us recognize that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, those guys, like, the game's not over. But the question is, and to his credit and to this team's credit, we may never have to find out the answer to that question because they just kick everybody's ass.
We found out the answer to that question last year. That's the problem. Right. 2 things can be true. It is true that Jalen Hurts is capable of doing what he did Sunday and winning a game when the Eagles need him to. It's also true that throughout the course of this season, he has not been consistently accurate or productive as a passer. He hasn't. He was better 2 years ago. That's true. It's not necessarily a dig at him, but it doesn't mean he can't play.
I'm not sure how I got painted as the one who's down on Jalen Hurts. I think
he's got his Saquon, you got your Hurts. It's kind of what goes one and the same.
Jeff, they had 195 feet of net passing yards in the game 2 weeks ago. I mean, when we're counting these things in feet, there's obviously a problem. The receiver is reading a book on the sideline. I can ignore that if you want me to, but it's obviously a thing.
They work extremely well in chaos, and they don't worry about all the ancillary things that we bring at them. And the bottom line is they feel very confident whichever way they have to win, they will win.
That we bring at them.
And he's smooth.
Okay.
Like, don't hate.
We'll come back to this one.